Hi guys, Shawn here with Red Spectre Studios, and today we're going to be using Flowstone 3 Alpha to build a basic synthesizer. Now you can use your version of Flowstone, you don't have to have the alpha. This is just a tutorial on how to build a basic synthesizer. We're going to be doing the inputs and outputs, the sound generators, and even effects today, so let's dive in. Hey guys, okay, we're inside of Flowstone now, and the first thing is this is your toolbox over to the left with all of your great tools, with a little search bar at the top and categories. This is your little panel here for jumping into your schematics and navigating, dragging around, and this is your schematic view where you'll be building everything. So first thing in a synthesizer is we need a way to get sound or signal in, and then sound out your speakers, and then of course we need something that makes sound. So with those three things in mind, we need to look for a MIDI in right up here in your search bar. So we're going to find MIDI in right here and just click and drag it over. You're going to select whatever you are using for input. I'm using the Keystation 88. We also need now something that's going to go from the MIDI to a signal. So we're going to need a MIDI to poly. And there's MIDI to poly. We're just going to drag it over, and then we're going to take these, and if you highlight over these little connectors here, you see our cursor changes. You just click and drag, and now it's patched together. You just release when you're over the other one. So now they're eternally stuck together. I'll show you how to move these around if we need to later. But now we need something that makes a sound. So you're going to need to get something like an oscillator, and so we're going to use this multi-oscillator right here. Just going to click it and drag it out. We're going to connect our frequency to our frequency, and now we need to, whoops, did we not connect it? Oh yes, we did. Now we need to connect this guy to what's called a envelope, so we can shape the sound. So we're just going to go envelope, and we're going to just going to drag this ADSR out right here, and we're going to click and drag that connector in there. Very simple. Now we need to come out to our speakers somehow. So we need something that's going to take this and either combine signals together into one and or set us up for stereo out. So we need something called a combiner. If it's not in your box, you can actually find it in the VSTI example that is in your toolbox. Just find the module inside of wherever you're looking by double clicking on the module, like I'm about to do here. Double click, and now we're inside of that ADSR or ADSR. If you see a module you want to save, you can literally take it like so and click it and drag it and let it go over your toolbox, and it will put it in there. So that's inside of that module. You can see here we have a new window open that you can click and drag around in to pan around. It's right up here at the top. And this is the inside of that module. If we click back over here, we're now back outside of that module. This was the module we were in. So any module you double click on that lets you go into it will open up a new panel next to these and show you the level that you are on. Anyway, we have our envelope here. Now we need to go get this combiner. If you do not have a combiner in your toolbox, like I said, open the VST module and double click in it and you will find one. So we're just going to drag it out and bring it over here to the end. You can see that there's two because I accidentally had two selected. I'm going to delete that and just click on another one here. If you click on a panel here or a tool in here and you click again, you'll see this little number starts. It starts counting up. Every time you click, it creates a new one. That way you can drag that many out of the toolbox onto the schematic, but we don't want that. So we're just going to grab one combiner here, click and drag it out, and we're now going to connect our out to it. And now we need to connect this to what's called a stereo clip. And this will basically keep your sound from clipping if it's too loud when it's going out. So we're just going to come back over here, do a search for clip. There's a regular clip, but we want the stereo clip here. So we're going to drag it out, and we're going to take this output, drag it to the input. We're going to take the same output and drag it to the other. So now we've gone from a mono channel into a stereo channel. And now we want to get our sound out to our speakers. So the easiest way to do that now is to type in DS. We're going to do a DS out, which is direct sound out. We're going to grab the top and put it in the top, which is your left. The bottom is going to go into your right. And basically from this box over here, we can click this bottom corner and drag out to see what it says. You're going to click your device, whatever you may be using on your computer. I'm using this Studio Live 3 mixer. And now, if all goes well, we should be able to play a key on our keyboard and hear the sound from this little synth. There it is, a really ugly sounding sine wave. So basically you can change this drop down box to pick any type of waveform you want. So I say let's go to a sawtooth and click again. And that is very loud. So what we want to do is make a volume knob. So we just marquee select by clicking in an empty area and dragging a rectangle around everything you want to move, and then clicking and dragging on anything to move that selection. So we want to look over here not for a volume knob, but what's called an amp. So we're just going to type in amp, and now we have this here. It looks like a volume knob, but what it does is amplify the sound. It actually multiplies the sound. So we're going to click it, we're going to drag it over and drop it, and instead of dropping it, okay, we did drop it, but we're going to pick it back up by clicking and dragging. We're going to hold it over this patch cable, and it's going to automatically connect after it turns to a dotted line and then starts blinking. So I'm going to not click on the knob because that turns the knob. I'm going to move over here to where we get the move symbol. We're going to click and drag it up and watch it blinks and connects. Now we can let it go. And so now we have a volume knob. So I'm going to turn it all the way down and hold the key on my keyboard. And now I'm going to turn the volume up. You can see our volume knob works. Now let's talk about the ADSR for a second. If you don't know what one is, you need to research this. But this is our attack, which is how strong or how fast the sound comes in when it starts. So if it's like it is right now, it fades as it comes in. We want that to hit stronger or to come in more rapidly. You would turn it down because that's the amount of time it's taking for it to come in for the attack. That's the attack time. Decay is how fast it drops away once you've pressed the key. Sustain is how long you're able to hold it out, which is also in combination with a hold, which we don't have in this particular unit. And the release is how long it lasts after you let go of the key. So I'm going to turn that way down so it doesn't ring out forever. I'm turned the attack down as well. So those two. And so we're just going to get a short beep until we let the key go. So there's our basic synthesizer with one oscillator and an envelope and a volume knob. So let's go ahead and make this a little bit cooler and add a second oscillator. And this is going to be really easy to do. So basically we're just going to drag a rectangle around this entire section, and I'm going to do it over all of this. And with everything highlighted, we're going to right click, we're going to copy, and we're going to move our mouse down to about right here, right click and paste, and now we have the section again repeated. It's very simple now because everything here is already connected. We just go from the frequency to the top frequency in here, and we go with our top one to our top one because these can accept multiple ends, and our bottom one to the bottom one. And now we have two oscillators in our synth. What's the point of that? Well, you can set their volumes at different levels if you want to mix how they interact with each other. We can set our envelope differently for how they fade in and out and so forth. So I'm going to let this one fade in a little bit, maybe ring out a little longer than the other one. This is a separate little trim volume knob here as well for the amount of sound we're getting. I'm going to turn those down because we're basically, as we add an oscillator, we are doubling the volume every time. So we're going to turn those down for now. And let's make our oscillator have a sawtooth here, and let's do a square wave on the second one. Now here's them played together. And I don't know if you could tell the difference, but let's turn down our sawtooth all the way. And let's turn it up and turn down our square wave all the way. Now we'll start bringing in the square wave. And you can hear how it changes the sound. That's basically layering the sound. So something that we'd really want to do here, I'm just going to move these. Just click and drag these when you see the move icon. We need to add a filter and a way to tune these things as well. So a way here to zoom out, with a couple ways, we can actually come down here to the bottom right and click on the magnifying glass to zoom out a little bit. We're going to detune these from each other. So I'm going to click and drag around them to select them all and move all this over. We're going to add what's called a detuner in the beginning here. So we're just going to go detune, and here we go. This will give us the ability, if you can look in the upper left, to change the octave, to change the semitone that it's tuned to, and then to fine control the tuning. The point of this is when you have two sounds at the exact same pitch, they're going to sound almost like the same sound. But if you detune them a little bit, they start to waver a little bit and give you kind of a chorus effect. And if you change the octaves, now you have a low sound on top of a high sound or whatever. So we're going to drag a couple of these out, and here's how we do it. We got it selected. We're going to click one more time. Now we've got two up here in our little upper left corner, showing that we're going to be dragging out two of them, and we just click and drag them out, and now we've got two. We're going to click anywhere to deselect them, and we're going to drop this in this line right here. So click and drag and hold it right here. It automatically connects. Click and drag and hold it here. It automatically connects. So now we can tune it. If you can hear, they sound the same right now as they did, but if we drop the octave on the first one, we just do it, open that up and go down to -1, drops it down one octave. So you have a higher sound and a lower sound playing. Let's put it at 0. We'll put this one at 0. We're going to make these both a sawtooth, and I'm going to show you what this fine tuning can do. I'm just going to leave the bottom one completely normal. I'm going to take the top one and detune it down just a tiny bit. Listen how the sound gets fatter. It starts to do a little wave. I'm also going to take down our attack just a tiny bit so it doesn't have that chop at the beginning. And if we take one of them and drop it down an octave, so now you can add as many oscillators as you want. 3 is a general setup, but 2 is good, and I've actually got a synth I just finished building that has 5, so it just depends on whatever it is you want to do. We'll just stick with 2 for the moment, and now we can do cool stuff like filtering. And I'm just gonna, let me save this. And one thing you want to make sure you do is save very often. So I'm going to save this really quick. I'm just going to put this on my desktop for now, and I'm going to call this Tutorial Synth. Make sure that we have that there. So now what we need to do is add a filter. So I'm going to move these over to make a little bit of space for our filters. And I'm going to move these over just to make a little more space. And now we're going to look up filter. What we're looking for is a state variable filter right here. So we're just going to click that out, drag it out, and let's just drop it right in line. And a different way of hooking these up, and let's go ahead and zoom in, is we want to connect, and it looks like it did not connect, so let's go ahead and make it connect now. We don't want to just go the in to the out. We want to connect also the signal out from the envelope also into the pitch, both of those. So now if we play and turn this knob, you can hear the filtering. And then you can change how this is affecting the signal. So let's add now an LFO, which is a low frequency oscillator, to the cutoff so that it automatically changes the sound based on a rhythm of an LFO. So now we're going to type in LFO, and this will give us a speed and a depth control of how that oscillation happens, how fast and how deep. So we're going to drag that out here like so, make a little room, and we're going to take its output and go into the cutoff input here. So we're just going to drag and connect, and then now that's done. So now if we play and you hear, I'm going to turn down our other one, you're just going to hear the top oscillator making sound, but this is with the LFO and the filter. And we're going to turn up the speed. And if you set really slow like I just did, and set the two oscillators with their filters at different timings, they will actually interplay and give you a fatter sound. So now we're just going to marquee select those two pieces, the filter and the LFO. We're going to go Control C to copy, or right click copy, and then right click and paste it right down here. And we want to connect these two in on this place as well. This one's already connected, the LFO, as it should be. So hover over this cable, right click and delete link. Everything goes gray because there's no connection. And then we're just going to take the top one and go into the top one here. We're going to go from the top one again into the second one, and then we're going to go from our output back into our amp, and now we have our connection back. So when you play both of these, let me go ahead and turn this one up, you will hear, especially if you set it at a different speed, you will hear a difference in sounds. And they will sort of work their way around each other, especially now if we go in and change the waveform on one of them. And we'll turn down our envelope here, our attack on the first one. So the rest of the process for that is just going to be to add some more oscillators, and eventually you will get it so loud though, the more oscillators you add, that you'll need to add trim knobs and stuff, which I can show you how to do. I'm just going to move this section over just so we can do something like that if we need to, but you can also control them by these volume knobs here. That's what these basically are for. So I'm just going to get everything a little more arranged and in line. And you can upgrade these elements as well. There are different types of envelopes that you can drag around on screen as a user. You can change out the looks of all your knobs, which I'll show you how to do in another tutorial. But this is the basic setup for a 2-oscillator synth. Let's go ahead and add some effects though to this while we're at it. So basically we're going to move our direct sound over, move our, well, because we want our effects to be happening in these clips. Also, we want to be able to turn our synth off and on. So adding a switch in here to where you can turn one off and on is a really good idea. And I have a particular switch that I like to use, but you can set it up the same way. Is I'm just going to go into switch, and there's a few different ways this can be done. If we just use a standard LED switch, that will work, but that won't work with this unit because you actually need a particular module to make this work. So I will show you how to do that. Alright, so what we need now is an LED indicator, not an LED switch. A standard LED kind of works the same way, but that's not how we're going to set it up at this point. We're going to grab this LED indicator, and it has a switch input, and we're going to take the switch output from here into the input here. The light will come on. When you flick the switch, it changes the light, showing us that it is indeed on and off. So we have sound, We don't have sound. Cool. So now we just need to copy and paste this again. So we'll just marquee select everything. We can right click copy, right click paste, and we have our little selection here once more. And we just need to wire it the same way the top one is. So this goes to the upper or the left, this one goes to the bottom or the right, and then these have to connect to the top, and this bottom one connects to the bottom one, and we have both of our oscillators. And you can turn them off and on so you can control which one you're hearing or if you're hearing both of them. And that is basically that. And now what we want to do is add effects to these guys. So these off and on should probably come before the effects. That's just my opinion. So we're actually would be cutting out the cutting off the effect as well as cutting off the sound. Since these effects aren't master effects, these are individual effects for each one of the oscillators. So we're going to grab all of this, marquee select it, and move it over so we have room for our effects. Now we're not going to be building the effects from scratch. We're going to be using little effects units that come with Flowstone. So I'm just going to cancel my search there, and we're going to look for chorus. And the chorus in here is not very strong, but we'll try it. We're just going to use the stereo chorus. We're going to grab it and drag it over, and we're going to just wire it up. You can see the top goes into the top. It's the left and the right, and the left and the right out. So we're basically going to drop it in here. It's only going to connect to the top one though. And if we go to the bottom, and now it connects to both. Did you see how I did that? I'll show you that one more time with another chorus. We'll drag it out, and now we're going to drag it over the top wire, which will connect and hold. And now we're still holding. We're going to move it down until it connects the bottom wire the same way. So now we have chorus on both of these that we can turn on or off. It already has a built-in switch. So this basic stereo chorus works way better than this chorus flanger does, just a warning. So now we have a chorus effect, which really fattens your sound up. Next thing we're going to look up is a delay. So we just type in delay, and we should come up with a delay unit at some point. So just here's a regular echo delay. Let's go use the ping pong because it's more fun. It'll go back and forth from your left and right speaker. We're just going to grab it out. Now if you notice, it only has one input, so we're going to have to take both of these and put them in the one, and then we come out to the stereo again. Just do it the same way we did before, where we connect to the top one, let it connect, and then the bottom one will not connect, so we're going to have to do some moving around here and connect that wire manually. So we just go to the bottom wire, hover over it, right click. Oh, and if you're wondering, when you hover over and you get this pop-up, that's just showing you a waveform, like a oscilloscope that shows you the sound or the signal that's going through that line at the time. There's nothing going through it right now until I push a key. And you can tell that's a square wave because it's shaped like a square. I think that's the square wave. This is probably a sawtooth. So anyway, we right click that and delete it, and then we take the out from here and go into the same input, and then this one goes to the right input here, just like that. So we're going to also now select this guy and copy it and paste it, and we're going to do the same process. So we can delete the bottom link, we can drag this and connect it to the top one, and then we can connect these wires here to the input and from the right to the right. And now we have a delay. So when we turn those on and play, you can hear it delaying, echoing back and forth between your speakers. We'll turn it down a little bit to get a little faster time here. Very cool, right? So now just to give it a little more atmosphere, and you don't have to have these effects on all the time. You can mix and match, turn some on, turn them all on, it doesn't matter. We're going to look up reverb, so R-E-V, and there we go. We're just going to drag it out, and this one has stereo on both ends, so we can click and drag it, hold it over the top one until it connects, and then go down, hold it over the bottom one until it connects as well. And there we go. Now we do another one the same way. Boom, and then down until it connects, boom. And now when we turn those on, you should have some nice atmosphere. Perfect. Perfect playing right there. Okay. And now we have all of this going on. This is two oscillators with a couple of effects on each one. 3 effects on each one. And you see just this little line of stuff here we've created. We need a way to control this because this is just plain ugly looking, am I right? Right. So something very important is to create a panel out of this. Now we want to select a whole bunch of stuff, but we want to make sure that we don't select the MIDI in and we do not select the direct sound out. Those will always exist on the computer that this plugin is going to be used on. So what we need to do is select, marquee select everything except for the MIDI in. We can use the MIDI to poly, but the MIDI to poly, everything all the way over. And if you can't get everything, just pan over. You'll still be selected and just click, or like shift click or shift drag, shift click and drag the rest. Now it will deselect things that have already been selected, so be careful with that. Shift click the things that are deselected to where you have everything except for the direct sound out and except for the MIDI in. Now you want to right click on any one of these nodes and it'll bring up this menu, and you want to click this one right here. Make module. This will freak you out, but watch this. Boom. Everything is gone, but actually it's not. It's just inside this little box. So you can see we have our MIDI in coming into it and our stereo audio coming out of it. Let's go ahead and get everything pushed back together. So I'm just going to take the direct sound out here. I'm going to drag, click both those. I'm going to move, whoops, I'm going to move all of that over to where it's nice and together again like this. Let's zoom in. And to zoom in the way I'm doing it, I'm just holding control and using my scroll wheel in case you're wondering. So I'm just going to center this stuff up a little bit. So now we have a MIDI in, we have our module, and we have our direct sound out. And you can see these are little inputs coming in. There's our wire plugging into our module, and there's the stereo going out that we have our cables going out to our whatever our speakers are connected to, which is our computer. This right here though, this is going to be our plugin eventually. And you can see right here it says VST for when we're ready to make it into a plugin. We will export by clicking on that, but we're not ready for that yet. So one thing we don't have is a way to control anything for the user. This is where our graphics panels come in, and I'm just going to spread this out a little bit, and then I'm going to go here to that center module, and you see that little white arc. When your arrow turns into a double arrow by holding your mouse above that little arc, you can click and drag and it will open that up. And if you click here on P, see there's no little P at the bottom, you click that P, we get that to open into our properties, but there aren't any properties, so we can close that. And then if we click on G, this is our graphics that we just opened up. Now it's small, we don't want it to be this small. We're going to basically click and drag this corner to make it the size that we're going to want it in the end when we go to export it. Our final plugin, so this is kind of deciding on that. So if we click and drag this, there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff just crammed in there on top of everything else. And you want to arrange this, and the way we do that is while we're in the plugin interface here, we click once on an empty spot. Actually, that's not how. We click outside, we click sorry, I double clicked and went inside. We're just going to click on one of these, and you can see we can turn the knobs, but we can't move them. So we want to come right down here, and there's a little lock icon. That's because our interface is locked. We want to click that lock icon to unlock everything, and those white rectangles appear on around everything. Now we can click and drag and move those units around. Now we don't know which one goes where yet, but we're just gonna move them as best we can. I'm gonna move this around so we have a little bit more room to work with. You can do the same, and I'm just gonna take this filter and put it over here. And then we can take this other filter, click on it until you get that border highlighted, and click and drag it, let's say right here. And then now we're going to need to start separating all this stuff out. So I'm just trying to get the biggest ones here. This is going to be our chorus. I don't know which chorus it is, but for one of them. And this one's going to be our chorus for the other one. I'm just going to put it at the same height as that guy. And like I said, if we want, we can zoom out, we can move our stuff around and over. Remember this little magnifying glass down here you can use. And to pan around the screen, you can't do anything right now other than panning around in this little area up here to make it move around. So I'm just going to make this big by clicking on it and dragging our corner and just kind of separating all this stuff out to where we can see what we've got. We don't know which one, if this is left or right or oscillator 1 or 2 yet. So let's just figure this out. There's our ADSR. Here's another ADSR. I'm just going to put one with each of these to start with. And here is our reverb unit. And here is another reverb unit. And here is our delay. And here is another delay. And so you could just start, and you can marquee select these pieces as well. You just start taking these and dragging them around until they're good and arranged. This is our tuner. This is another tuner. If we put these together, actually if we put an ADSR in between them, you have a tuner here and a tuner here, and that's just kind of pushed in between. This is like a tuner sandwich. Okay, not funny. All right, so let's put this here. We put another tuner down here. We have another ADSR here. So one of each thing goes with each oscillator. And so we also need, this is our LFO for our filter. We'll put that with that filter. This is our other LFO. Put that with that one. And it doesn't matter where you put these right now. That's not going to change the way the synthesizer functions, but it'll matter to the user where they're going to find these and how well it's going to be arranged. So this is one of our waveform selectors here. So we need one with this. We need one with this. We're going to need our switches to turn on and off our oscillator, so one with each, and also our volume knob for now, for one for each. Okay, just give this a switch down here too. And here's a volume knob for this one here. And here's an LED for each light. So we'll just take one there and one here. Now, there's no way to know which volume knob goes with which oscillator and so forth, but I have a trick for that. So once you're done moving everything around, just separating it out so we can tell what goes where. You can turn the knobs inside of the module to indicate if it's for top and bottom or whatever. So right now, because we have an oscillator up here and one down here, I'm going to go with top and bottom. And we're going to use the code on the knobs of right and left. So if everything is turned to the left, it'll be for the top. If everything is turned to the right, it'll be for the bottom. So that's a good way to arrange these. So we're going to go in either you can double click, let's say the border of the module, or we can also go up here and click that since we were already in there. But let's just do it the way we'll probably do it mostly. Just go over here to the border of your module and double click it, and now we're back inside that module. Now, for everything on the top, this first oscillator and all of its connected devices, just turn everything to the left, and everything on the bottom devices here, turn them all to the right. And this will basically mess up our sound, but we can correct this later. So everything up there left, everything down here to the right, everything up here to the left, everything down here to the right, left, left, left. It doesn't matter on the unit as long as your first knob is turned to the right. So we're just going to move over and go left and right on all these knobs so we know which is which. Oops, I moved a cable instead, but that's all right. It doesn't change how it works. That's just for your viewing pleasure. And we just get everything turned left and right here. And this way we'll know when we go and look at the panel again that everything that's switched to the left belongs to the top oscillator, and everything that is to the right belongs to the bottom one. And just make sure everything is turned. Okay, and here's our switches. For the top, we're going to have it up. For the bottom, we're going to have it down. Very simple. So now to get back out of this module, we click on the first panel here, and we're back at the front. So we can already see our switch is wrong because the bottom one was down. So we're going to have to move that one down to here. And this one will now come back up to here. Okay, everything on the right was going to be at the bottom. Everything on the left is going to, and you can see these are all messed up. So the right is bottom. So we know that this delay goes down here and this delay goes up here. And this reverb goes down here and this reverb goes up here. So it's pretty simple. It seems like a little bit overwhelming at the start, but it's really not. Alright, anything with the knobs turned to the right goes at the bottom. Anything with them turned to the left goes at the top. It's that simple. This goes up here, this goes down here, this goes up here, this goes down here. And everything up here should have the knobs to the left. Everything down here should be to the right, which it looks like I messed up a couple things. So this guy goes here, this guy goes here. Okay, that all looks good now. Now, the other thing is, our waveforms, we don't know which one those go to. This one and this one. Also, our LEDs. Now, we know that when it's down, that's when it's on, because it's being wired backwards. So we can swap the LEDs. You can see that one's on and that one's off. So that's done. So the waveform is what we need to fix. Square is up here right now and sawtooth is down here. Let's find out which way it is over in the panel. So double click on your edge and we're gonna drag back over here and see sawtooth is on top, square is on the bottom. So we need to swap these out and there we go. So everything is grouped accordingly now. Now we need to arrange this to where it's gonna look good. More than likely, the way I like to do things is I usually like my volume knob and my on and off to be kind of together. You kind of go through the sequence of how you would set up or program a synthesizer. So more than likely, in my opinion, I'm just going to move all this stuff here over. And I would have my on and off switch pretty much starting right here. And probably my volume knob either under or next to it. And then effects would come last, so I'm going to drag all these effects over to here. Just out of the way. Let's get this out of the way. And then you're going to want to be able to select which waveform you want to use. So let's put that guy here for now. Then you're going to want to be able to select its tuning right here, because these are the initial things that happen to the sound. Then you want to shape that particular sound, and then you want to filter it. So let's put our ADSR here, I suppose, and then put our filter here with its adjustments here for the moment, and then we'll just take our effects, put them at the end. But we want to, I like to do them in this particular order, where we put the chorus first, then the delay, and then the reverb after the fact, because they kind of, that's the way they are in the chain when they're built. So let's take our ADSR, just stick it under here for visual reasons, like that. We'll take our filters now and move those over to where they are sitting about right there. And then all of our effects, we can drag select them and move those over to where they are sitting approximately here. And let's get these all at the same height now. That's what this grid and snapping to the grid is good for. Let's grab this guy and just move it down one to just kind of put them all on the same level. Actually, move that one up, move this one up, and this one back up here. And I'm just trying to get these somewhat situated to where they will look good once they're set up. And let's actually move everything over a bit. Let's get this sawtooth up here, this guy maybe here, and this under here like so. The arrangement is an art form in itself, I warn you. So, you know, just something that feels and looks good is all you need. I'm going to put that probably down here, probably put this back down here again, and this somewhat here, and get these sort of arranged similarly. Kind of want these at the bottom to have the spacing that sort of matches. That looks pretty good. And then we can just drag everything over, compact this a little bit, and then take everything and just sort of drag that over now a little bit like so, and I think that looks pretty good. Now we just arrange the bottom one to look exactly like the top, so we'll just move all of our effects over, and I'll probably speed the video up here so it's a little less boring. Alright, so once you get everything arranged like so, we can just resize the window a little bit here now. And there you go. I just clicked on an empty space to kind of show that. It sort of releases the editing. So you can come in here and click on things. Make sure they all move and so forth the way you need them to. To edit again, you click on the border, you come down here, you make sure you're unlocked, and you can go back and click on everything. Alright, so you want people to know what these things are for. We might have to move these around just a little bit more to be able to do this, but it's pretty simple. I would make a little bit more room. I would marquee select, drag everything, and move it down slightly. So just grab everything, make sure you're on one of these to move it, and just kind of move it down. I would even move it over a little bit just to make some room all the way around. And you want to put some labels on some of this stuff. So we could go on, off right here. And we have volume. And these labels come with these particular knobs inside of those modules. But let's say you want to make a label for this switch right here. We would double click and go into our module, and on this level where all of our pieces are, you can just come over here to our toolbox and click and type in label, and right here we have label. We're just going to drag that down onto a blank area of the schematic, and we don't have to connect it to anything. We just click on this little P here in the corner, and now we can write what we want. So we can say in caps on / cap off, and we can even change the color of the text here. You can change the size of the text and the font, and then we want to close the properties, and we have on off. Now when we go back to our main panel, you can see we have an on-off label. Everything you make will appear in this upper left-hand corner. So if we needed this label to also be down here, you can see you can click it and then drag it to move it around, like so. Click off, that's how it's going to look. If we want another one, you can't duplicate here because it will duplicate the entire module. We have to go back into our module, click this guy, right-click it, copy. Over here on a blank area, right-click, paste. And now we have two of them. We jump back to the top level. You can see it's, you can't see it anywhere, but that's because it's laid over the top of the original, because it duplicated it right onto itself. You click on that label and then drag down, and we have our new one for the bottom switch. So there you go. Now it'd be nice too if we had separating lines for each area, like effects, filter, and oscillator. So I say we go ahead and click drag the top and bottom of the effects and move those over a bit. We're going to drag the filters, grab those and move those over a little bit, about there. And we're going to do the same thing with all the oscillators. Try not to get your labels and stuff over here, and we'll just move those to there, I guess. And then we can click and drag these pieces. Try not to get any of those units, and move those over a couple squares. And there we go. Now let's go make some separators here. Those are called something special, so we're just going to double click, go back into here, and we're going to create what are called group adornments. So we go in here and we type group, and we have this little group frame here. We're just going to click and drag it out, and we know we need 3 of them. So I'm just going to right click, copy, right click, paste, right click, paste. So we have 3 of these guys. Now in the top one, we know we're going to need one for the oscillators. So to change that name, we're going to need, we don't click here, this is just for our own knowledge here, but if we want to change the label that's going to show to everybody, we click on the little P, and right here we'll change this to oscillators. Enter or whatever you need to do, and then click the little X. And now it says that in the label. So we click on the P here, and this is going to be filter or filters, either way. And then we're going to click on the P here and put EFFECTS FX. And then we'll go back to our top layer. Now all these are going to be here grouped on top of each other, and they're going to be in front or on top of everything. We can't have that because then we can't use our knobs because these will be in the way, and I'll show you how to fix that. So the one that says effects will be on top, so we're going to click and drag it over to here. And then we're going to grab its corner just like everything else and drag it down until we are surrounding our effects section. And it looks like we might need to make a little room between these. So before we do that, let's undo it. You just Control Z to undo. We're going to make this a little bit wider just to give us, we can always make it narrower later. Give us a little more room. So we're just going to take these and scoot them straight over. We're going to take these filters as well and scoot those straight over. That should be enough room for everything. Okay, back to the panels. We're just going to click on the top one. We're going to move it over. Give you a little room for that tag there. And we're going to just drag the corner down to where everything fits around real nice, evenly on all sides. And then click to the side to make sure it's there. Right now it's just going to look like a dotted line. In a minute it's going to look really good. So we're just going to click here again for the next one down. That's the filters group there. And we're just going to grab its corner and straighten it out to where it hits on the same line. It looks like we've got one square all the way around, so that looks good. And then we're going to grab this oscillator one, do the same thing to where it's got this top at the same place, and it's got one square all the way around as well. And now when we click off, you can see we've got these nice groups around our stuff. One big problem though, for one, they're separated out too much, but for another, well, sometimes this is a problem. Evidently it's not right now. These panels though are in front of everything, so they are shading our knobs and stuff a little bit. So click on an empty area, then you can click on one of these tabs and right click it and say send to back, and you'll notice our knobs brighten up a lot because this is now behind them. We're not looking through it. Do the same thing to the other two, just send to back. Here, right click, send to back. Okay, now let's move everything together again. So we're going to click and drag around the frame as well to make everything highlighted, and you'll just move this until you have a line or two, or a grid or two, a square or two in between each one. And make sure it's even on this one too, and we click away, click off right here, and now they're all laid out really nice. But it looks like our effects and filters and whatnot are a little bit far apart from top to bottom once again. But if you come in here now and click and drag, you're going to select the back as well. We don't want that. So there's a couple things you can do. You can either hide this by going into the module and hiding it, or, and this is the way you hide it, you would go down to the bottom of anything and, well, let's just do it. Let's go into panel 2, and you have your panels here that we're using. This particular one we're not going to actually do this, but we can. If we click on this panel, you can see at the bottom you have all these icons. This particular eye, if you click it, It puts a slash through the eye, and when you come back to level 1, it's now invisible. So that's one way to do it, and that's probably the way we should do it. So let's just do that. Let's go back in here and slash the eye, get violent with you, on all 3 of those, and now we can move everything. So we just want to grab, marquee select these pieces on the bottom, even the switch and so forth, and just pull those up to where they're, you know, close enough. And we'll come back and we'll make sure we turn these eyes back on. This will show them on the front panel again. Now it looks like that's pretty good, and we just need to select our back panel here now and just shorten that up to where it's good and even. And then we need to we could create a panel for the entire plugin, which is probably what we should do. So let's do that. We're going to make one more panel. Go back into the module by double clicking on it. We're going to copy and paste this panel. Why not? Or we could drag out another one. Let's just do that. This is going to be our main panel. Now we're going to get rid of this label. So this is a little advanced. We are inside of a module right now, but this group adornment is also a module. If we double click on its frame, we're going to go inside of it now. Right over here, there's a little area, a little frame here called label. We're just going to highlight it and click the delete key. And now we don't want to mess with any of this stuff, but we want to come back out to our level right above, and now that group adornment no longer has a label. This is going to be our panel for our entire instrument. So let's go ahead now and jump out of this one to the top level, and that panel is going to be located over here in the corner where everything is when it is first created. We click on that panel, leaving it in the corner. We're just going to drag out that bottom corner of it all the way to where we want the edges of our instrument to be, which is right here. And then we want to find a space in between the other panels. You can't do it right here, but you want to do it right here. But also with this one highlighted, the main one highlighted. Right click it and say send to back. This will put it behind all the other panels. Then we want to size this main frame down to that panel, and that will be good to go. Something else we can do is go into our level 2 again, and where our group adornment is for our main panel, we can, let's just pan over here a little bit, click on the P, and now we can change the color of the outline of it, which I think I'll leave gray, and the back. So let's say we wanted this to be a, I don't know, kind of a bluish color, something like this horrible color, because that would be fun. We just click on that and we say OK, and now we have this as our back. I believe this has a built-in alpha, so it's not going to be fully this color, but we can make that, and I'll show you how to do that. So we've now selected that color. We'll click the X. It will turn that blue with see-through blue. We'll jump back up to top layer here, and you can see now we have this bluish background. These panels that are over the top though are kind of a darker gray that are outlining the rest of our stuff. So if we click off onto a blank area, we now have this, and it's looking pretty good. I'm not going to show you how to do everything in this tutorial, like changing knob colors and knob images and stuff. This is just kind of to get you guys going from making a basic synthesizer and getting some basic colors. If we wanted to put a label on this or something, you can. That's really easy. We just go right back in here and we create a label. You just have to type in up here in your search box again, label, and drag it out to anywhere. And now we want to click on the P and change what we want it to say. Let's call this my first synth. It's just like those little kid toys. And this is the color of your font right here. This is the size and the font. So find a font that you like. Yes, I have a lot, and I'm just gonna pick anything, and I'm gonna do this at about let's go 10. Find out if that's too big, and then close. And then if you don't see it, it's because it's bigger than your frame. Just drag this and do like so. So obviously this is way too big. We just click on the P again, And let's do this at like 2. And then we say okay. There you go. We can resize this down. And then we jump back up to the top layer. It's going to be right up here. We just drag that to wherever we want it. And it's still a little big. Now we can always drag our frame and everything around and all that, but let's just go ahead and change the size of this. We jump back into our module, double click it, and we hit the P, and now we can go, let's go 1.5 and hit the X and jump back here, and there we go. Something like this. And we probably could have left this the size that it was. Now if you're snapping to the grid and you don't want to, if you hold your control key, it lets you smoothly place stuff. So we just go like so, let go, then click outside of your frame, and you basically got kind of the look that you're going to have. If you want to see what it's going to look like in the final form, you just click the edge of the frame, lock it, and then click the magnifying glass, and you'll get a focused view like so. And this is what your synth will look like when it's finished. And to get out of that, you just simply close the window by clicking this X, and you're back in Flowstone. Alright guys, that's it. Let's go ahead. Alright, that was disturbing and hurt my ears a lot. That's because all of our settings were messed up. So turn your cutoff down. Turn all your knobs down before you start. Alright. Hey guys, still here, but just nearly blew my ears out. Make sure before you play your synth at all that you go and turn all your knobs down. Because we turned them all the way to the right to set everything up and to figure out where it goes, my volumes were all the way up, my cutoff and resonance was all the way up, and it literally just screeched in my ear like you wouldn't believe. So turn all your knobs down and then go and sort it from there. A good starting place for these ADSRs is about 1/4 of the way up volume wise. I would just start there with all of them, and then you can turn them on. Ooh. And should be able to play. Your decay and sustain are very important. So if you don't turn those up, you won't get any sound. And you can balance between your your oscillators right here. You can change your sounds here. You can change your octaves. You can detune them from each other. I'm not hearing a lot of tuning change, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set both these to sawtooth, and I'm going to check these that they are in fact detuning from each other. And this is the process called troubleshooting. So you hear that small wavering? That's from them being detuned. You can tune them this way. And if the detuning isn't to your liking, you can always go into the module and change that. It's a little more advanced, but I'll show you real quick what I mean. Double click and jump into your synth. Go to where your detuners are here in the front, and this is a module unto itself as well. So we just double click on it, and we're now inside the detuner. And now we want the fine pitch to go much farther. So I believe click on P on the knob here, and you can see it goes 0 to 1, or 0.01 to 0.01 in the positive. If we did this to 0.0, let's say 7 to negative to 0.01 positive, it's going to give us a lot more tuning. And if we go even more, I say we take this to 0.5. Why not? So that should be a negative 0.5 and then a positive 0.5. That's going to give us a lot more. And this one has to say negative 0.5, very important. And then now we should be able to tune up and down. You can see how that gives us a lot more usability. So we just jump up the level above that. See, all I did was go into this detuner module, go into the knob itself here, just click P, and then that gives me my minimum and maximum range. Very, very simple. All right, cool. So we're back out. We can do the same thing with this module. Just double click it, click the P here, and tell it it's a negative 0.5 to a positive 0.5, and click close, and you're done. You hear how it gives you a fatter sound when that's all good to go. So now we're right here. We can turn on and off our respective stuff. We can turn on our off and on our effects. We could put labels on our chorus, delay, and so on. Turn up the mix so you can actually hear it. And then our reverb. And we can do the same thing, of course, with our other one. So just turn up your mixes however high you want them. The chorus. And then, of course, you can turn up the individual volumes. You can turn up the amounts here if you still don't have enough. And of course we can change our Cool. Thanks for watching, guys, and have a good one.